Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Freaky Fast Broadcasting on your Wednesday night. Tonight, we're going to be going left, right, up, and down at Sonoma Raceway for race number 5 of the season. You're already going to get a glimpse. Drivers are having a handful with yesterday's new update. Drivers are getting used to a brand new Gen 4 Cup car. And they're starting to say that there's a little bit more feel in the front end. They're enjoying the way this car is feeling at times. It's going to be a lot of focus on the accelerator. Who can get off of the exit of these corners better, or who can enter a little bit quicker? We'll have to find out and see tonight. Once again, you're watching the WSSR Cup Series presented by Elwood Designs for Season 12 here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. My name is Sam Dyer. And joining me, hopefully later, going to be Richard Wolsifer. We'll see if Robert Moyer Jr. has to tag in later on tonight. But for now, you're just hanging out with me. Producing is still Robert Moyer Jr. As the drivers are finishing up practice, we're about to be entering into qualifying. Drivers will have 10 minutes to put down their fastest lap and 2 laps to do so, as you also see our icon of the 6 hours of Daytona, as we've got our charity race. Crazy to say, less than a month away. January 3rd, it will be our charity race, as we will give more information throughout this race, throughout this evening on our charity race, on ways that you, as if you want to be a driver, can be involved, or as a viewer, you can influence the race and the broadcast, as last charity race was incredible. Crazy to say, this is our 5th annual. We're excited for it. But tonight, about to get underway with qualifying. Currently, the fastest drivers on track, Jake Nichols in the 73. He's been the top driver, continues to do so, and he will be top of the board for us this evening. Vincent Sora's second fastest was Seth Knoll. Gavin Rogers and Zach Hall are top 5, all within about a half a second of one another. So that's going to be the 5 drivers of note. If they can qualify well, they're going to be the ones to watch out on how consistent they can be. 12 corners in total is Sonoma, as some of the drivers are rallying their ways up through turns 1, up into turn 2 for the warm-up lap. This track here at Sonoma Raceway, certainly a very unique course. We're going with the classic shorter track, 11 corners in total. We don't have the carousel to worry about. It is simply just hit your marks, go quick. You got your elevation changes of turn 3A, 3B, down here into turn number 4, a hard braking zone. Got a lot of chances to make passes here. As you can see, the number 2 machine of Danny Cochran, as he is currently getting down through the S's, and some of the drivers going to have different thought processes of how they want to start this qualifying off. Do you want to burn up your tires, or do you want to go slow, keep the tires cool for an attacking run? I also, this is going to be a learning aspect for us, as Sonoma, not a well-versed track for the WSSR Cup Series. It has actually only been ran once in the previous 11 seasons. That was season 7, when they ran in the old ARCA car, when the ARCA car had a weird glitch where they gave it the Gen 4 engines. And it was running quite fast back then. That race, Zach Hall grabbed the pole. It was Ben Nelson who took the victory that evening. We'll see, can Zach Hall double down and grab a pole, which we look at the pole award winners. We've had 4 different races, 4 different pole award winners so far. The first one went to Zach Hall to start the season off. We had John Forbes back at Atlanta 08. Phoenix, Vincent Sora got it done. And then last week at Kansas, Jake Nichols looked to be on pace to grab the pole and take the win. Wasn't the case. It was Seth Knoll that took the victory, that broke the streak of Jake Nichols winning 2 in a row. Can Nichols get back on track, or can someone else trying to get a little bit quicker? Danny Cochran, proud of this scheme that he's running here tonight. Kind of a Kellogg's throwback scheme of the old Gen 4 days, of when Kyle Busch ran this, as well as Mark Martin. A very classic scheme, but it's got its Larry Arts Productions colors all around, as the field roars down into turn number 1. A couple of drivers setting up for lap 2, others setting up for lap 1 to be their money lap. It looks like for Danny Cochran, he's hoping to put some speed here in lap number 1. I'm also watching Vincent Sora, who's going to be expected to be one of our fastest drivers here this evening. Throwaway lap for the 15, as well for the 00. Danny Cochran, a 1 minute 16.943. If we compare that lap of a 1 minute and 16, that would have been pretty good. That is actually a decent time to have. Fastest lap during practice was a 1:16.229 by Jake Nichols. And currently here for qualifying, Danny Cochran, a 19.9. So about 7/10 off is this two machine compared to the fastest time during practice. I'm curious if we can bring up the weather, because that's going to be a factor we talk about a lot here tonight. As the weather conditions here this evening, going to be a lot of focus on the track temperature. It is 113 degrees track temperature. It is a very warm track. And during practice, it was actually cooler. It's around 103 degrees Fahrenheit to 108 was the fluctuation. It has just gotten warmer since that time. So we'll see how that race changes up. And a key factor on why it's heating up, you can see at the very bottom of our weather conditions graphic, that is in sim time. It is high noon, middle of the day. It is only going to get hotter and warmer as we're at that air temperature of 77 degrees Fahrenheit. Top of the board, Danny Cochran, a 1:18.0, a very good. I was trying to go for a quick time, but his second lap did not have anything for himself, but still good enough to hold the pole over Vincent Sora. His second lap, about 500 faster was Cochran. As take that back, Jake Nichols puts a burner down, a 1 minute 16.684 for the 73, our points leader entering tonight. Certainly not losing a step, and I think this is going to be the worry of the league. This 73 looked already unbeatable at the oval tracks. We come to a road course where maybe there was a chance to see some variety of drivers maybe peeking onto the top of the board. Looks like for Nichols, he's saying, no, sirree, I am still the top dog. The rookie is just making fear in everyone's eyes here for season 12 of the WSSR Cup Series. Thomas Green going to sneak his way into second place. Zach Hall looking at his time, a slower run than he was hoping for. Going to be good enough for 15th currently. As Brian McCann going to slide his way into 5th place. Zach Hall, Gavin Rogers, and as well John Forbes. That was not the qualifying run they were looking for. Being a little bit deeper in the field could be treacherous with the ways that these vehicles work, as Jake Nichols really wheeling it around turn 11, across the final corner, bend of turn 12, and across the line to finish out his qualifying run. Not going to be better than his first, but Seth Knoll will find some decent speed. It's going to be 1/10 off of Nichols for second on the board. Got about 8 drivers still to put down a time. Danny Ware, a driver who attempted to put down a time, but both laps were invalidated. As if you graze the grass, spun out, hit the wall, that would invalidate your lap time. Both laps not good for the 35. Here's Cedric Hunter, Brian P. Johnson, Chuck Sweeting, Jan Van Leer, as well as Douglas Newbegin, all trying to at least put a lap time in. Out on track is Hunter, Johnson that we see on screen, and Douglas Newbegin. Sweeting, Lair, and Ware all going to be not able to put a time in with 3 minutes and 30 seconds left. This is your final attempt to put down your final times. Johnson, good enough for 11th. Also, another driver that's still out there going to be Larry Yingling. He's good enough for 12th. Both on their final lap to see if they can find some extra speed. Cedric Hunter currently on lap number 1. Not really finding that pace that he's looking for, as Johnson breaks down at a turn number 4 here. Going to be a part of the track where, because you're going downhill, gravity really playing against you. Got to get on those brakes hard. You might overshoot the corner a couple of times and you get to turn 5, otherwise known as turn 7. If you're on the long course, it's going to be another spot of chances to make passes and a spot where a lot of wrecks can come through. It's going through the S's of 7, 8, not corner number 9, aiming for turn number 10 here. The key for turn 10, Johnson's just at stay on track. Don't go too wide. That outside dirt will be calling a few drivers. You don't want to be the one that gets into that trouble. Now heartbreaking into turn number 11. This is a new aspect. Those barriers on the inside, those used to be tire pillars that were kind of scattered around to kind of advance you and help you guide you around. Now with that wall, that's going to make things slightly trickier to go for big passes get underneath drivers. We'll see how that elevates throughout this evening. Johnson does not go too much faster. He'll still stay in 11th. Yingling in 12th. His second lap will not count. Hunter currently 15th on the board. He is on his final lap, and Douglas Newbigging has finished both of his laps. They did not count. So drivers that will be starting in the back: Danny Ware, Chuck Sweeting, Jan van Leer, as well as Douglas Newbigging. All not going to be able to put a time in. Newbigging just getting a little bit of extra practice in for the 77, but our pole sitter breaking the streak. It was once 4 drivers, 4 different pole sitters. No longer going to be the case. Jake Nichols going to go back-to-back, grabbing the pole as he got it last week at Kansas, and give it to him here at Sonoma. Congratulations to that 73 team, as Douglas Newbigging showing pit road could be a tricky spot if you're not careful, going into that entry a little bit too quick for himself. Well, that won't carry over into the race. We will first have a 5-minute warm-up period after qualifying's done here in a minute. But thank you so much to everyone that is here with us here tonight to watch some Sonoma racing action. Again, we are expecting Richard Wolsifer. He has notified us that he was going to be late entering into this race as he had a little bit of work troubles. We'll see if Richard can join us up at the booth here later on. But as we're waiting, this gives us time to say thank you to some of our sponsors as we are about to have our warm-ups. First and foremost, I want to say thank you to Elwood Designs. Elwood Designs is our title sponsor for Season 12 of the WSSR Cup Series. If you're looking to get yourself some iRacing schemes and custom liveries, go check out Elwood Designs. They've been in the iRacing community since 2012. They're certainly making some of the best schemes out there, partnering up with simwrapmarket.com to help you even make your own custom designs, trying to help the community out with making schemes and enabling you with the tools to make your own. You can go find some of those scheme bases on Facebook, X, as well at simwrapmarket.com. Just look up Elwood Designs, or if you're looking on simwrapmarket.com, look up Alan Elwood to see those schemes that you can work with. Well, the warm-up's over. So warm-up's about to start, excuse me. Qualifying is over. Practice is over. And this gives us time to take a little bit of a closer look of how the season's been so far. We've already ran 4 races so far this season, and we've certainly seen a consistent top runner. That has been Jake Nichols, the rookie. Already 2 wins. Could have gotten his 3rd last week at Kansas, but came up shy to Seth Knoll grabbing the victory. Vincent Sora's been looking great for himself so far this season, as well as Ryan Kelly's been finding some great consistency. We look at the cut line, though. Some drivers of, I would say, shock. From 14th to the cutoff line, you've got Danny Ware, Ollie Fonseca, Chuck Sweeting. Not really the drivers I was expecting to list off in our top 16, but the earlier races, certainly a lot of things can change, or they can continue on with finding these good finishes at the end of the race. Some drivers outside of the cut lines, you got Cedric Hunter, Douglas Newbigging, Brian P. Johnson, Jan van Leer. Those are some drivers I'm kind of shocked on how far they've fallen down. One driver of note, watch out for Danny Cochran. That 2 machine found some really good pace the last couple of races we've been, especially at the 1.5 miles. We've got a couple of more before this regular season is over. That 2 could try to make a surge forward to try to make the chase, make the playoffs, make the chase before this regular season is over. Let's move on over, take a look at the schedule, because this schedule is interesting on the fact that we have a 3-race break and then another 3-race break. We're currently in the middle of our second 3-race stint as we're here at Sonoma. We then race next week at Darlington before we find ourselves taking another 2 weeks off for Christmas and New Year's. We'll then be back January 7th for the Milwaukee Mile, Michigan, Indianapolis. Then we really change things up, heading to Mexico City for the Mexico City Grand Prix at their road course. Then we find ourselves at Rockingham, finishing out the regular season at Talladega. Certainly, a lot of things can change on with the variety of tracks, on who's going to be in those top 16 positions. So you've got to make sure you're on your best game at every style of course we head to. Well, currently that's what the schedule looks like that we have in front of us. We're excited for the great racing we're going to have here tonight. 50 laps at Sonoma. And here's going to be some of the drivers of note that we feel like you should watch out for. First and foremost, I want to start out with my pick. I'm going with the guy that's going to be on top of the board until we ban him of a driver to we can't pick. I'm going to go with Jake Nichols. Nichols is going to be my pick of a driver to watch out for. 73 has been quick, he's been fast, and I'm excited to see, can he prove that he is still this quick with grabbing the pole here tonight? Can he find the race pace to take the victory here this evening? We're going to switch things up a little bit. We'll go with Robert Moyer's pick as he finds himself going with Zach Hall. Hall's going to be a little bit deeper in the field. I'm curious on how that's going to change up. And just joining us here tonight, we've got Richard Wolsifer with us. Richard, we made a pick for you. I don't know if you agree with this pick, but we went with Gavin Rogers as your pick. But who would you actually like to choose as your driver if you had the choice?
I'm glad to finally make it here. And you know what? You guys read my mind. I'm going to have to go with Gavin Rogers. This kind of racing is his bread and butter. This is where he is dominant at. I think Gavin can finally showcase what he's able to do with this car here at Sonoma tonight.
Well, we're happy that you're here, Richard. I know that you had to really get rolling through traffic to get here. And certainly drivers are going to be going through a lot of traffic tonight. 12 corners, 2 miles in distance. Sonoma Raceway is going to be a tricky course all around for this field to watch out for. And currently, it's going to be a lot of watch out on, I think, this first corner. I think with the way that these cars scoop with one another, the hard braking zone, this is going to be our first taste of road course racing for Season 12. And Richard, I'm intrigued, especially with being here at Sonoma, on how these drivers will react in these first couple of corners.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how these drivers do the first half of the track. Honestly, this is where the elevation change is huge. This is where they're not going to have a really flat track. It's going to be a lot of up and a lot of down on top of a lot of slip and slide. So it's going to be really fun to see who decides to attack these turns and who holds back to save the tires to have a little bit more grip later in the race.
As we are coming up to the end of our warm-ups, thank you to everyone that's here with us for this journey for race number 5 of the season. We also want us to give thanks to Lucky Duck Motorsports. Lucky Duck Motorsports is our grid sponsor. If you want to go check out some of the amazing donation and charities that Lucky Ducks is a part of, head on over and check out on their X and Instagram, Lucky Duck Motorsports on Instagram, and we are Lucky Ducks on Twitter, to go see the ways that you can help and support the great charities that Lucky Ducks is a part of. Lucky Ducks, they've got 2 teams that are involved here in the WSSR Cup Series, and it is awesome to see the talent that they bring in each and every season. Certainly this season, they brought in some of the best, with Seth Knoll running most of the season. And then you also have Jake Nichols going for the championship. They're 2 of the top dogs. Now it's time to see what the rest of the field has to stop those drivers as we take a look at our Lucky Duck Motorsport starting grid. Well, breaking the streak, we had 4 races, 4 different pole sitters. Well, no longer, as Jake Nichols goes back-to-back as he'll take the pole here tonight. And the driver that won last week at Kansas, he'll be to the outside of the 23 of Seth Knoll. Behind them, going to be some drivers I wasn't expecting to be in row number 2. Thomas Green, Danny Cochran, great qualifying attempts for both of them. Danny Cochran has been good here at Sonoma and other leagues that we broadcasted. We'll see how the 2 can convert that here tonight. In 5th place, going to be Vincent Sora in the 15, and also going to be the pick of Richard Wolsifer of Gavin Rogers in 6th. Brian McCann, another driver. I'm just kind of shocked to see where they qualified so well. The 8 will take 7th. They'll see if he can carry over some of that go-karting talent here to Sonoma. Zach Hall, Robert's pick, going to be in 8th, with John Forbes Jr. in 9th. And finishing out our top 10, it's the 27 of Jared Talmadge.
All right, starting in 11th place will be Brian P. Johnson in the 28 machine, with Larry Yingling in the 67 to his outside. Row 7 is going to be Ryan Kelly and Cedric Hunter in P13 and 14. P15 and 16 is going to be Samuel S. Garcia and Joshua Kanata. Starting back in the 17th place, Shane Terrian and Matt Muir to his outside in the 18th position. And Ollie Fonseca and Brian Knoll round out the top 20.
We fall to the final few drivers that will be racing here tonight. 25 in total, with Ben Kinney in 21st. Then drivers that could not get a time in: Douglas Newbigging, Chuck Sweeting, Danny Ware, and Jan Van Leer. Going to be those final 4. Also, looking at drivers, a little bit of a shock. Brian P. Johnson disconnecting right as we were in the middle of gridding. So the 28, he will have to start in pit road if he's able to reconnect back into this race. That is a tough spot for a driver that was just outside of the top 16 in points. I'll have to try to get reconnected in here quickly as the field rolls, and we're about to get ready for racing action. Here tonight at Sonoma, 50 laps in total. No stage break, no full course yellows will be thrown or expected to be thrown unless there is a major blockage. No fast repairs, 4 extra sets of tires in pit road. Fuel mileage expected to be about 35 laps is a full fuel you can take these vehicles. So at least a one stop here tonight for fuel. We'll see how the tires vary off throughout this evening. But the one aspect of this race that is going to be tough to watch out for the drivers, 15 incident points. That's when you make contact with driver, you go off track, you hit the wall. If you get too many incident points, 15 is the magic number. You will have to serve a drive-through penalty here tonight. Richard, that's going to be the big wild card of the evening of how well can you stay clean, green, and out of trouble this evening.
Yeah, I think that's a really awesome rule for the road courses. I mean, you don't get a lot of separation in the oval tracks, so wrecks happen, yellows happen, but this really helps the drivers drive clean, keep the car safe, stay on the track by giving that 15 incident limit for the drive-through penalty. So it'll be interesting to see how many drivers receive that black flag later on in this race.
As the field gets ready down through the S's, this is going to be a tough spot. If drivers can make passes here, it's going to be a pretty talented move. Most drivers, when they're stuck behind traffic, they slowly make their way through this portion. As the field is side by side, Nichols, Knowles, they're going to be the top 2 drivers that we're expecting here tonight. A lot of work for Gavin Rogers, a lot of work for as well Vincent Sora and Zach Hall. How can they climb through this field? And can anyone else be maybe a little bit of a sly vehicle that can slice their way to gain a better finish here at the end of this race? Richard, as we're going through turn 10, just 2 more corners to go. Any final thoughts before we go green?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what drivers decide to opt to save their tires for the longer run, so they only have to worry about 1 pit stop for fuel, because if you waste those tires, you're going to drop like a rock later in the race. So it'll be interesting to see what strategy these drivers take.
Well, top 2, going to be the 2 drivers that have proven they are some of the best at the oval racing. How well can they keep it clean here this evening for road course racing? The first road course of season 12 is upon. It's Sonoma Raceway out of turn number 12 into the restart zone. Jake Nichols, Seth Knoll going to be on the loud pedal as they roar down into turn number 1. They take the left-hander. Then you'll look up to the sky as you climb to turn number 2. Hard braking zone, everyone trying to make their way slowly around the rumble strip, but it's Nichols clean. Knoll going to be following in suit side by side for 3rd place as they head down into turn 3A, 3B. Trouble a little bit further on back for Brian Noel, but up front, it is already mainly single file for our top 8.
Yeah, single file for the top 8. Smart decision by them, and going over 3B is really scary if someone spins out in front of you. You can't see going over that hill, but a very clean opening lap so far for the most of the track as they're starting to go onto the backside of the track now. 73 of Jake Nichols still leading this race as the top 3 start to pull away and show they're here to put on a show for themselves.
They certainly are. Update on Brian B. Johnson. He was able to reconnect back into this race, but 13 seconds behind our leader. It's tough for a driver that qualified in 11 that could have been fighting for a top 10 here tonight. Now going to be seeing Jake Nichols hard braking into turn number 11. The new aspect of Sonoma, this big wall that drivers have to deal with while turning around the corner. Richard, that aspect of this track is going to be so different from what drivers are used to as Nichols leads lap number 1.
Yeah, it's definitely something they're going to have to get used to, especially now if you get spun, because it could potentially happen. If you get spun going into that turn, instead of just sliding and kind of sliding up into the field, you could potentially slide straight into the edge of that wall and end your night. So that's another terrifying thing to think about when hitting that wall as they head up and over 3B right now to head down into the backside of the track again.
Top 3's already going to be about 2 seconds ahead, over 2.5 seconds ahead. Is from Jake Nichols to 4th place runner Vincent Sora. Crazy to see that difference already. As riding on board, getting a sense of what it's like is Gavin Rogers in the 1 machine trying to catch up to number 2. This is the battle for 5th place as seeing some of those Lucky Duck machines having their Christmas ribbons around their vehicles. Jake Nichols as well as going to be John Forbes, Gavin Rogers, and I believe also going to be seeing Jared Talmadge, all having Christmas schemes here tonight.
Yeah, these Christmas schemes are awesome to see. I love it when drivers come out with a theme, especially during the holiday seasons. Thomas Green and 31 looking low on the number 23 machine of Seth Knoll, not able to get that pass down. He's got to fall back in line, but that will allow Jake Nichols to get a hefty lead in front of the 23 machine.
Well, it went from close to one another to now it's gapped out to almost a full second. Fastest lap of the day goes to Vincent Sora as he does not want to lose touch to our top three. Still about 2.5 seconds behind, and that's going to be the pace for Sora with him qualifying back in 5th position. It's just a lot more work for the 15 to try to keep himself close to the top three, where if you're at least within distance, a mistake could grant you a position or two. But if you're so far back, a mistake, you might not even have enough time to take capitalization on those moments.
Yeah, it's going to be really hard to recoup after you make a mistake because there's no cautions, and the removal of the stage really is going to affect these road course races that we have. Because like you said, one mistake, it sets you back 10 plus seconds, and it's going to be really hard for you to try to get back up through the field. It almost takes you out of winning contention completely, even a top 5 almost completely. So these drivers got to worry about making any mistake and try not to do it and mitigate as much as possible.
As you're seeing a little bit more in the middle of the field, this is where 10th place runner and the number 7 of John Forbes rides. A little bit more of a train action as everyone is in line, just trying to get through turn 11, turn 12, and find an opening to go for a pass or maybe just survive as Vincent Sora puts another fastest lap of the day down. You know, the 15 is putting down every aspect that he could possibly do to close into our top 3. Problem then kind of goes to tire wise. How well are these tires going to evolve? I think that's the one thing I'm curious about, and some of the drivers are even talking about strategy coming into this race. Was you look at the next gen, there were times where you didn't take tires when you came into pit road, but this being a 50-lap race, people were expecting drivers to take tires at that one pit stop that they have. Question is, do you or do you not? Who's going to risk it or not?
Yeah, I think the difference, though, is like next gen, they were kind of designed for road course racing. They've got the wider tire, they've got a lot more downforce and the ability to stick to the turns a little bit more. These cars, I mean, they've got a narrower tire, they've got a lot more power as well. So I think tires are going to be a necessity when they come into a pit. It'll be interesting to see if anybody decides to opt to not take tires and just go fuel only to get back out and have track position rather than tires.
As now ducking down low, Gavin Rogers trying to find an opening to get by Danny Cochran for that 5th place position. 2 runs a little bit wide, and 1 better exit. Try to set up to go push forward if possible as they climb up through turn number 1. Gavin Rogers to the inside as they go under the bridge up to turn 2. Cochran with the better dive into turn 2, and Rogers just trying to find a better exit out of the corner, but ultimately almost got ran over by Hall.
Yeah, he had to slow down a lot to try to get a better exit. Hall was right on his rear bumper. They were able to stay off each other and keep straight. Gavin did have a really good exit, but just did not have the line to get around that of Danny Cochran. And also, we had a change for 3rd place. Vincent Sora was able to get around Danny Cochran and take 3rd away from the number 31 machine.
Yeah, able to get by Tom's Green. That 31 is certainly a good qualifying run for him to be up front. He'll take this opportunity to follow the 15, see what pace he has. A lot of learning lessons could be gained here as we go back to that, watching the battle outside of the top 5. Zach Hall currently in 7th place. This is some of the closest racing action from 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th place on top of one another. As looking at the 27, Jarrett Talmadge, where can he go? And it looks like he'll defend low. Doesn't want Brian McCann to try to dive for that inside pass.
Yeah, he doesn't want him to dive, and Gavin had to lock up a little bit going into that final turn there, that hairpin turn. So a lot of smoke, or a little bit of smoke you saw from his tires right in front of Zach Hall. And now we're back here riding along with the number 7 and 8 of Brian McCann and John Forbes Jr. Them two trying to get a run to catch up to the cars in front of them and head up here into turn 3 and 4. They're doing a good job keeping each other on their toes, really. Got to look in your mirror, see what that other driver's trying to do, and try to protect your line along with playing defensive and make sure you don't lose any positions.
And looking at drivers' lap times, that last lap, our top 3, all for lap number 5 of this race, just put down their fastest lap of the day. Kind of want to bring up the weather if we can once again. And we saw during qualifying the track temp was extremely warm, and it still is quite warm at 116 degrees Fahrenheit. air temp going to be 79 degrees Fahrenheit. That in sim time is at 1:12 p.m. I'm curious on how this track continues to get warmer and how that could affect these times, as already the drivers about a second slower than their fastest laps during practice when the track was at its coolest.
Yeah, and we also have one car going down pit lane right now. Ben Keeney taking it into the pit lane currently. Not sure if there was an issue, but we also, so we'll have to see. He's currently in his pit box. We'll have to see if that's a scheduled pit stop for himself or he had some issue. Maybe he got some damage he had to repair.
It's going to be a quick in and out moment, and could be because of how slow Ben runs. Might be a pit early and see where you can be rewarded later on in this race. As didn't see a black flag that he had to serve a drive-through penalty, as the 98 would just stay to the inside waiting for the whole entire field to pass before he gets rolling. Looking at some of the other drivers that are out on track, here is going to be the 00 of Brian Noel in 19th place. He's got his teammate of Lucky Duck Motorsports, Douglas Newbegin, behind him, all trying to find ways to gain on the drivers ahead, but just a lack of speed it looks to be from the 00 and the 77. As behind them, it's going to be Jan van Leer just trying to find his way in the Tide machine to get some passes done.
Yeah, it seems like it's not very easy to pass for these guys here at Sonoma. You have to be able to build a run-up, but by the time you build that run-up, you're going into another turn, and if you're not very much aside of the next person, you've almost got to give that position back up to the one in front of you. So it's interesting to see. I mean, there's a lot of speed differential from a lot of these drivers. Some of them are very strong on road courses. Other ones, it's probably not the most comfortable racing they do. So they're just kind of here to survive, get some points, and show up to the, make sure they show up to every single race. We have some heavy smoke in front of the number 16 machine.
Yeah, I believe that was Larry Yingling. A lot of heavy walk-ups for the 67. That's where that puff of smoke on entry of turn number 11 came from. And also at the center of the corner, just was carrying way too much speed. Those tires locking up, which I was watching some of the drivers during practice. They were going hard on those brakes in the entry of turn 11. And a lot of them said it works for now, but later on in the race, got to be concerned about your braking points and might have to slow down a little bit sooner and try not to lock up your tires as much, as Samuel S. Garcia trying to stay ahead of the three-time champ of the WSSR Cup Series, as Yingling is just trying his best and not the most well-known road course specialist. Driver that kind of just shows up for the road courses, hopes for the best as they go down through the S's. I kind of want to go back to that Joshua Kanata battle because we always have to shine a light on Shane Terrian, our controller driver. But road course racing with the controller, I would imagine it's not the easiest thing to do. An oval makes a little bit more sense. But here's the onboard with our controller driver as he's trying to run smoothly with the joystick. Really taking it easy is going to be Terrian as he exits out of the corner. And it's kind of impressive on the fact of how much throttle control everyone was kind of talking about and mentioning. It's all about the accelerator on how you get out of the corner. That's what's really going to help you with some good speed here tonight. And just using triggers on a controller is what's enabling this 9 machine to take off and go. You can see the small twitches where you gotta get a glimpse of, oh yeah, that's a joystick. Steering wheel would not react as erratically as some of these movements are, but it's always so interesting to see as Larry Yingling able to make a pass on the 24 of Ali Fonseca, as Shane Terrian will duck down low on Joshua Kanata, trying to attempt to go for a pass, as well as seeing Matt Muir in that 72 machine right there.
Yeah, Shane Terrian is really impressive with his controller use here on iRacing. And honestly, I know you say, on a road course it might be a lot more difficult for a steering wheel, but if his racing experiences came from like that's of Gran Turismo, it's probably a lot more comfortable to be on a road course with the joysticks and the throttle with the triggers than it is an oval. Oval might be a lot easier just because, you're not going both ways on the joystick, but he's probably a lot more comfortable than we think racing here at Sonoma.
He's giving it his best effort right now, running back in 17th position as they continue to race on. Update on our leaders. Jake Nichols starting to pull away a lot more from Seth Knoll, up to 1.2 seconds over last week's winner of Seth Knoll. Vincent Sora has kind of started to taper off on the amount of speed he once had. Still about a half a second around his fastest lap. So there is still a lot of pace there, but you can kind of get a sense that Jake Nichols, he's not trying to push the car as quickly as he possibly could, but he certainly is trying to keep the margin up to a point where he feels comfortable if there's a slight little mistake that he makes.
Yeah, he's definitely given himself a little bit of leeway if he does make a small mistake with this almost 2-second lead over Seth Knowles. So doing a fantastic job. If he does make a small mistake, misses a braking point ever so slightly, maybe scuffs the wall, he won't lose lead position. So Jake Nichols doing a great job controlling his pace and controlling this race, so he's there at the end.
Update for drivers further on back. Danny Ware, who qualified all the way into, wasn't able to get a qualifying time in the 35, made some mistakes, and he has called it an evening. We'll be finishing in 25th here tonight in our first DNF of the evening. Also back in pit road going to be Ben Keeney in the 98 as he continues to get more repairs done and decides if he wants to continue racing here this evening. I mean, road course racing in here at Sonoma, it is a mental battle as well as a physical one that drivers have to go through. This track with the vertical, with seeing the elevation changes that drivers have to go through, it's so tough to try to even get a whole grasp of this track at times. I mean, Richard, this is a course where I feel like if you just throw someone out there that doesn't have a lot of road course experience, you're going to struggle just getting through the first 2 corners, let alone this whole 12-corner race course.
Yeah, it is definitely a strugglesome track for those that are not very well versed in the road course racing. Especially, I think one of the most troublesome turns is that 3B, that 3 to 3B, where you're on that kind of sweeping left, and then you make a sharp right-hand turn at the crest of a hill. So it's hard to see where you need to hit your mark for that hill because typically it's right at the top of the hill. So you can't necessarily see it with the car angled up, looking up over the hill, trying to get over the hood. So it's a lot of knowing the track, knowing where you are on the track and where to place that car to hit your mark versus seeing it and just knowing where it goes.
See a couple of different positions out on course. There was Joshua Kanata's point of view as he's still being heavily pressured by the 9 of Shane Tarian. Other close battles going on for 6th position as you have the 8 machine of Brian McCann trying to close in on the gap on the 27 of Jared Talmadge. Also, you've got John Forbes right behind him, and that's one of the better screenshot spots. Driver hits the turtle, and they get a little bit of air as the 8 and a few others just two-wheeling it for a second, as also Trust trying their best to get on the accelerator off the exit turn 4.
Yeah, the good thing about the turtles here, the curbs here, is it's not like an actual turtle like you see it like a Circuit of the Americas. It's kind of intended for that, for those drivers to use that. You will see them get in the air. And yeah, that is a fantastic spot for drivers to get a great screenshot at the end of the race if they want to post it. So it's a great photo op area, but it's also dangerous because if you hit that too hard and get up in the air, you got no grip when those tires are not on the ground, and it could throw you all the way out to that outside wall, and you could lose a ton of time if you hit it wrong.
Talk about Jack Nichols. Maybe he's pacing himself. Well, maybe Seth Knowles went as fast as the lap of the race, going to the 23 machine that last go around, as he now cuts the difference from almost about 2 seconds down to 1.3. The 23 night is not over just yet as he tries to close in on the gap. Looking at other drivers, our top 3 are really in their own world based off of pace. As Thomas Green, those tires look to be a little bit too overheated up. Still in a good spot for the 31 in 4th place, kind of in what I like to call the no man's land. Not very close to anyone in front of you or behind you. He's now just going to figure out his own pace and try to stay ahead of Danny Cochran. While our top 3, within 3 seconds, you can see your competition. This is certainly a spot where you're just hit your marks and bank on the fact the driver ahead of you is going to make a major mistake.
Yeah, just waiting for someone to make a mistake is all you're looking for. As we had almost a moment back by Shane Tarian going into that right-hand turn 4. Looks like they almost got 3 wide trying to go back into turn 4, but they were able to keep it straight and off each other and out of the wall, so all drivers okay. As you can see one car there struggling a little bit in the white number 50 machine.
Yeah, that will be Samuel S. Garcia, who was once leading this group. He now is just floundering to stay on course as he continues to wobble back and forth. And now emerging into this group, the driver that started from pit road, Brian P. Johnson, from last to 18th to 28th, is flying through this group right now, as now he is trying to close in on Matt Mir ahead of him. Also, while we were looking at this battle, new fastest lap going to the 15 of Vincent Sora, as he puts down a 1 minute and 17.2 second lap time. These drivers up front, they still have a lot of speed in these tires, even 14 laps in.
Yeah, that's impressive to see, because they are putting down scorching laps almost every single lap between all three of them, and they are still just able to just gap the rest of this field. I mean, Seth Knoll, he had not a very fast lap that last lap. He was at 1:17.8 when Jake Nichols was at 1:17.5, and Vincent Sora putting down the fastest lap of the race at 1:17.2. So, I mean, they're still putting down phenomenal laps for how old these tires are, 14 laps in.
And looking at some of these drivers, as Shane tearing through the S's, peeking his nose, but gets back in line with the 16. I'm looking at when drivers will pit. Road course racing is so interesting. I feel like with the next gens and the way that those tires wouldn't really fall off in the past, it would kind of be immediately when you could pit and you knew you were good on the fuel, you'd make that pit stop because you knew you weren't switching out the tires. With drivers here tonight, the potential of changing tires, it kind of switches things up. Do you push your fuel as far as you can go, or do you split this race in half? And that's going to be the fun strategy to look out for, because technically, if you wanted to do what we like to call an undercut, where you pit sooner than your competition ahead of you, we're just about a lap and a half away from drivers making their pit stop that could take them to the end.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see which drivers decide to do the undercut. And honestly, I think the best strategy would be to try and undercut it, maybe do one or two more laps further up, just in case, but take some left side tires. I remember talking to Zach Hall last night prior to today, and he was saying to protect those left side tires. So to me, it sounds like the left side tires are going to wear a lot more. They do have a lot more right-hand turns here at Sonoma, so maybe left side tire take for the pit stop is probably going to be the strategy for these drivers to do.
And that would be a curious one to see. How can you minimize time, gain time on your competition? I think also the tough thing for drivers that are inside of our top 10, the top 15, is if you pit sooner than later, there's a chance that you might come out of pit road, and you're right in the middle of some of these big gaggle of cars that we've been checking out, and you could actually lose time with pitting sooner than later. Well, if you're a driver that's such as a Brian P. Johnson with us, just entering that pit window, pitting out, when you leave pit road, you'll have clean air to work with. You'll have that space to put down some of your faster time. So the interesting calls are going to be made of when do you feel like you've got the space to make the pit stop.
Yeah, the leaders are the ones that are really going to probably wait to the last second that they possibly can pit, just because they don't want to be the ones stuck in the traffic trying to get around these cars again, because like you said, they're going to lose time, and that could potentially change how this race ends and who wins the race. So they want to wait to be able to make sure they get out in clean air and they don't have to worry about passing anybody after they get some new full fuel and maybe fresh tires.
As Zach Hall currently runs in 9th position, down one spot from where he qualified in 8th place, as John Forbes took that spot away. Inside of our top 10, biggest mover is the 27 of Jared Talmadge, as he continues to be pressured by Brian McCann and John Forbes. Jared Talmadge up 4 spots from where he started. The driver up multiple positions, going to be Vincent Sora in 13th place. One of our biggest losers, you could say, Gavin Rogers. He's just at that 10th place position. Just doesn't seem like the race pace is there for the one machine, as he is down 4 positions for himself from where he qualified. Biggest mover of the day overall, though, Ali Fonseca up 7 spots from where he started, as that 24 team currently runs in 12th place. As keep our eyes set here for the battle for 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. Brian McCann, John Forbes, they just continue to be practically on top of one another, as 8 stuck in the worst sandwich you could be in, with that Lucky Duck Motorsports just hounding him in front and behind.
Yeah, he's just got to find an opportunity to get around the number 27 at Talmadge, and it's just not there. And the problem is he could potentially have a situation where the 27 might slow him up just ever so slightly, and that'll allow the number 7 of John Forbes to make a move. So it's not the best position to be in when you're surrounded by teammates that could potentially help out and set you up for a pass.
17 laps in, and they continue to race on. Update for 24th position. That's Ben Keeney, who we saw go into pit road multiple separate times. Well, he has officially called it an evening here tonight, as well as joining him going to be the 00 of Ryan Noel, who will call it a night. So that's 3 drivers out. We're left with 22 out on track. All 22 are still on the lead lap, but Chuck Sweeting could be the first victim to be going a lap down to Jake Nichols, which at this pace that we're looking, I don't think we're going to be as much in concern of seeing our top 10 or top 6, I should say, only be the ones on the lead lap. As watching Danny Cocker and Jared Talmadge, this is just brilliant racing to watch, with these guys being so close, and Jared Talmadge to the inside, taking an opportunity, but just there's no place to accelerate off the exit turn 5.
Yeah, a huge lunge from Talmadge trying to get to the bottom side of Danny Cochran for that turn. But Danny just had a better roll through in that turn on the outside. There was able to get the momentum and the power down a lot quicker than Talmadge, just because of how much speed Talmadge had to lose trying to get that lunge into the turn. He didn't have the exit he wanted, but he is right there on the bumper of Danny Cochran. He is trying to look for a moment to pass him. And honestly, right here's the moment, but he's just not close enough. Doesn't have the momentum to get into the underside of him. But Danny Cochran goes wide, but so does the 27, and they're 3 wide going onto the front stretch.
Stack 3 wide for a moment. Now going to get back in line. Oh, what a shot that could have been for the 8 machine. The Brian McCann take a little bit of a 2 for 1 with both drivers making a mistake. Instead, you get back in line. It was practically like you did nothing. And the driver that gets rewarded the most, it's Zach Hall in the 32. He's now within distance, about 2 car lengths away from being right back into this conga line. Another driver that could be joining if they continue at this rate is the one at Gavin Rogers. He could get back into the mix with the mistakes that Cochran and Jared Talmadge are making right now.
Yeah, and it's not even necessarily mistakes that they're making. It's just they're racing hard, trying to stay in front of each other. And Gavin, I mean, he has got to hope something happens with this group of 5 cars. He is just losing time. He just does not look like he's very comfortable in this car at this track and just cannot make the time.
No, but he was able to gain at least a second there that last time around because of Cochran and Jared Talmadge going so wide through turn 11. We'll see how much better of a run they have here through 9 into turn 10 over the rumble strips, trying to stay on course as multiple drivers sweeping it to the outside. And here we go, Talmadge finally gets to the inside groove here on the entry of turn 11. Cochran trying to squeeze and keep the 27 back and at bay, but not going to be the case. They'll stay side by side through turn 12. The 27 should have the advantage off the exit turn 12. Cochran with the wiggle, and Talmadge finally, after all this fighting, is able to secure 5th place.
Yeah, great move by Talmadge, was able to get underneath Danny Cochran going into turn 11 there, and then Cochran tried to drag race down the main stretch into turn 12 to start finish, but had a little bit of wheel spin. You saw this car wiggle there. He kept it out of the 27 machine and had to fall in line. Now he's the cat chasing the mouse, trying to get back around Jared Talmadge.
Can you just try to pull away? And that's going to be the key thing here. Did you use all of your equipment to just get by the 2, or do you have something left to just pull away from this pack? I mean, also this group, with the way that you see road course racing, sometimes you find the group of drivers, sometimes it's just 1 driver, sometimes it's 2. We currently have this gaggle of 5 that you're just stuck with. You constantly are racing around as you're seeing John Forbes grazing the dirt there for a second. I was curious with how quick Jared Talmadge was swinging that 27 to the outside. I was curious if anyone else was going to go a little bit too far. That's going to be something to watch out for in these next 5 laps before we see our first true pit stops of the night happen, is who's going to really overcook their tires going down the hill through the S's as Brian McCann, big wheel spin, and that's going to blow up the 7 even more.
Yeah, Brian McCann, he is starting to struggle. Tires are getting a little old and worn out. It might be time for these drivers to start thinking about pitting. They are in the pit window to make it the rest of the way as the 16 machine, he spins in turn 11 in front of everybody, and Douglas Newbigging also almost getting loose and spinning out. But the 16 machine of Joshua Kanata, a massive spin there in turn 11.
As he just locked it up and looked like it might have downshifted, that got that thing out of shape. Hard contact for himself as the rest of the field able to get by, but loss of major ground from 15th to 20th is going to be the lost ground. Other battles that are happening as Brian McCann, John Forbes, they are right back at it between themselves for the 8 and the 7 machine. Can able to defend at this current time. But there was an attempt by the 7 to go for the pass, and here we go. Zach Hall now going to be in the mix to try to get by to both of these drivers. If one of them makes a mistake, that 32 is going to pounce. But the question is, can they keep it all together, or will Hall be the one that makes the mistake as he goes over the rumble strips down into the hard braking zone?
Yeah, it was a really fun set of turns to watch between the 8 and the number 7 machine. The 7 made a move going into turn 5 and just kind of overcooked the turn, allowing Brian McCann to do the crossover and get back into his position to maintain it. But Zach Hall just kind of back here biding his time. He's waiting for one of these two to make a mistake and overshoot a turn or even make contact with each other, but he's just kind of back here and just waiting. I don't think he's really got the pace to be able to make a pass by himself.
And I want to keep our camera still on this grouping for now, but here's an update of our top 3. They are within a second and a half of one another. It has been kind of yo-yoing back and forth on how quickly they can be close to one another. Jake Nichols has been running a 1 minute and 18-second lap time. Vincent Soar as well as Seth Knoll, they've been in the 1 minute and 17-second window. They've been gaining time, and our top 3, we could be seeing a battle between all 3 of them here in the next 2 to 3 laps if they continue at this rate, because Sora looks quick, but can Knoll and Nichols hold back to 17? As again, this grouping, the battling that's happening for 5th back to 8th, this has just been a treat to watch. All these drivers going back and forth.
Yeah, and this is something you don't really see a lot of times in road course racings. It will stretch out quite a bit. You won't see a lot of racing, but these guys, their skill in this car on this track is very equal, and they are putting on a show for us, proving that you can still have a lot of really close racing, even on a road course with these stock cars and Gen 4 NASCAR Cup cars.
You certainly can, and now we continue to watch the battling between Cochran as well as Jared Talmadge. Other drivers, I want to give credit to the 28 of Brian P. Johnson. Again, had to start this race from pit road. He got disconnected while they were gridding up. He had to start all the way back into 25th position. He was about 12 seconds off the leader at the start of this race, and now is up to 16th position, has caught up to another gaggle of cars. His 12th back to 16th, all in this grouping, and the 28 looks to be one of the fastest of this pack.
Brian P. Johnson is making up incredible ground after having that disconnect to start the race and starting from the pits. But now he is knocking on Shane Terrian's door right on the rear bumper of him. He is looking to try to make a move, but he is doing a great job maintaining his pace and keeping his race in his control right now as best as he can. But right there behind that group of cars, he's going to have to kind of wait for either mistake or make a daring move and a lunge to the inside of a turn.
More updates for drivers further on back in the pack. Our 4th DNF joining us, Brian Noel, as well as Ben Kinney and Danny Ware. It will be Chuck Sweeting in the 57, calling it an evening here early on, as seeing Brian P. Johnson and a few others trying to find their opening to go for a pass. But first driver to make an official pit stop, it's Brian McCann in the 8 machine. He's the first to hit pit road with Ryan Kelly following him. So it's going to be the Cody Glencock's music team that will be making their first pit stops here. Go with the undercut. We'll see if that strategy works out for the best, as I want to move up to the lead position because our top 2 are the closest they've been since lap 1. Jake Nichols, Seth Knoll, they're within 0.3 of one another, and a second behind them is Vincent Sora.
Yeah, Vincent Sora is doing a great job, and now he sees both of them getting ready to fight for that lead position. This is where Vincent Sora can pounce, but Seth Knoll has been able to maintain his tires, and it looks like his pace is a lot better than that of Jake Nichols. So right now, right on the bumper, he is within striking distance, but at the same time, they are in their pit window. So who's going to strike first, or are they going to try and pit together and continue this extremely close race for the lead?
Again, the full fuel window that you can go is 35 laps. You can split this race in half and feel comfortable. That also will help you if you pit sooner than later on cutting down the amount of time that you're fueling up your vehicle. And we saw that last week at Kansas. When you fully fill up this vehicle when you're on empty, it's about a 16-second pit stop. If you pit sooner, it's around a 14-second pit stop. So you're saving time by pitting earlier than later. Well, these drivers are having a very tough call, though, of when you want to go for a pass here as well, because if you're Nichols, if you're Knoll, and if you're Vincent Sora, pitting sooner is really going to help your advantage here. But if you wait out, that puts Jake Nichols in the tougher spot because he's got to make the move first. If he waits, everyone else can pit sooner.
Yeah, I think for these three, hit the rest of the field and where they pit has no matter of what these guys do. But I have a feeling, there they go, the leader, Jake Nichols, into the pits, followed by Vincent Sora. That'll put Seth Knoll as the leader. He's going to stay out as long as he can. He's going to try to put some time with these tires that he's got a little bit saved up. But is this the right call? We'll have to see. I believe this could make him behind Vincent Sora in the long run.
And now seeing lap traffic exiting out of pit road, Ollie Fonseca, Cedric Hunter, and that's going to be the next factor that you worry about. How is lap cars going to be getting in the way or out of the way for yourself? And with those drivers having fresh tires, will they influence this race in any way? As Seth Knoll, you have to hit your marks. This lap is so critical. Or will you do the opposite and stay out as long as you can? There are options here that are in the hands of this 23 machine, because we were seeing the lap times. They will fall off by about a half a second from your fastest lap. So there is a chance that maybe this 23 stays out a little bit longer to make sure he's got the better tires for the end of this race compared to his competition.
Yeah, he might be taking that slight advantage, but I mean, he's definitely going to pit soon for tires. It could be this lap. We'll have to see. But those other guys are going to have the faster laps. He can't wait much longer on these old tires to come in and get some new fresh tires. He's going to stay out again, it looks like. He's going to put another lap down to see how much time he can put up between these guys.
And new fastest lap of the day, Brian McCann in the 8 machine back in 9th place, a 1 minute 17.1. That is a burner for the 8, as he's currently being challenged by Jared Talmadge, as both of those drivers have already made their pit stops in. The advantage to the 8 machine, he was able to make the pass over the 27 with the undercut. Now is the question of, can they keep it together throughout this run? As Seth Knoll continues to stay out, this 23, he might go with the complete opposite route of just stay out as long as possible to make sure he's got the better tires at the end of this race.
I mean, that could be what he's doing, but we'll have to see what Jake Nichols and Vincent Sora are putting down on the fresh tires. I mean, like we just saw, Brian McCann putting down the fastest lap of the race with a 1:17.1 on 2-lap-old tires. So, I mean, he can't wait much longer if he wants to have a small gap between him and those guys that pit before him. So it's like I said, the strategy calls are going to be interesting, and that's what's going to make the difference of who wins this race and who comes in the top 5 or less.
I mean, there's Thomas Green. That is a 17 almost flat for himself. A great time by the 31. You saw his pulling off on pace, as that is a 1:17.096 for himself. As now Jake Nichols, Vincent Sora, they get prepared to cross the line and see what pace they have for themselves, as Seth Knoll continues to stay out for another lap. Again, the window the drivers were given 35 laps. Still, those that have not pitted yet, Seth Knoll, John Forbes Jr., as well as Larry Yingling and Shane Terrian. Those are the 4 drivers that still need to pit before this race is over. The question is, when do they want to make that pit stop in? Or how much of an advantage will they have? As we're now into the second half of this race. Thank you for joining with us. It's been an honor to give you the coverage here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. We also want to say thank you to some of the other great sponsors that are out there. We want to say thank you to our white flag sponsor, being Sim Precision Prints. If you're looking for 3D printed sim racing gear or one-of-a-kind pieces built with passion and precision, go check out simprecisionprints.shop online, and remember to use the promo code WSSR at the checkout for 10% off on your $50 or more order. Go check out Sim Precision Prints for precision prints, performance delivered. Thank you so much to our white flag sponsor. We also, if you are looking to get into racing a little bit more in a professional way, or if you're just trying to feel like a professional, go check out GTR Simulators. They've got plenty of different racing rigs and simulator rigs, those that are portable that you can move out of the way and put down for multiple different uses, or just stationary rigs. Go check all the different options that they have. And again, remember to use the promo code WSSR at checkout for 10% off on $100 or more from GTRsimulators.com. Don't miss out on your chance to upgrade your rig and race like the pros. More pit stops going to be underway with Shane Darian making his stop, leaving us with just 3 drivers yet to pit. Richard, this is those moments that we talked about strategy calls. I thought we were going to see someone maybe take the extreme undercut and pit sooner than later. drivers pushing it this far out compared to the rest of the field, I think this is more of a shock that I'm shocked to see at this moment of how much time that Seth Knoll is willing to give up to Nichols and Sora.
Yeah, because he is giving up almost a second every lap now that he's on track, that they're up to speed. So he's going to be probably a good 2 or 3 seconds, if not more, behind them when he comes into pit. So I think he's betting on the later run for those guys that have weaker tires than he will. So I don't know. This is going to be an interesting call to see him come back up through the field and try to catch those guys back up. But right now, I think Jake Nichols and Vincent Sora are definitely going to make out on that strategy call for the pits.
They certainly are looking like the best currently. Within a second of one another is the 73 and 15. So they continue to race on. Got a little bit of lap traffic ahead of them. That will be Jan van Leer. That's first driver they're going to find a way to get by. And I made the comment of maybe our top 6 won't be the only drivers on the lead lap after tonight's race. Well, I'm re-looking at the pace. 20 laps to go. Well, there's a chance we might be left with our top 6 being on the lead lap with us staying clean and green so far. And the pace we are seeing right now is incredible to see how fast these drivers are ripping around this track. Richard, this is always a treat to watch. WSSR Cup Series, the fact that we're seeing such clean races with this Gen 4 car, it's been a pleasure all throughout this season. And honestly, Jake Nichols as well as Seth Knoll, they've been the top of the class. But everyone else throughout the field, they also deserve their flowers with how this car reacts with being pushed around, everyone being so close on pace. This has been a treat to see all the different battles here at the road course and the ovals.
Yeah, it's also been interesting to see like what drivers have adapted a lot better to this car than, let's say, the next gen. And one of those drivers, specifically Gavin Rogers, he has not had the strongest season so far. He has just not been able to adapt. This car is not driving the way he was kind of expecting it to. So it's interesting to see what drivers have been able to adapt to it and make it look good and make it work to their advantage, and others that aren't.
Yeah, I feel like on the flip side, Danny Cochran, who kind of was having his issues at moments, is Seth Knoll now going to be getting his service done. Danny Cochran has been a driver that's really found his own groove recently. With our Monday series we used to cover, the Trinity Racing League, I felt like we really saw Danny get back to the old ways of how fast he used to be. And here with the Gen 4 cars, the 2, he's certainly quick. Is Larry Yingling now going to get his service done, leaving us with just John Forbes yet to go into the pits. And now with everyone leaving pit road, here's going to be the difference on pace. Jake Nichols back in second currently. It's almost 4 seconds the difference between Nichols and Knoll, as Knoll's got a lot of time. He's got to try to figure out how to close back in if he wants to fight for this win, let alone trying to fight for second place.
Yeah, 4-second difference, and he's got a 5-lap, buffer on those newer tires. So we'll have to see later in this run. I think that's where it's going to really pay off for him, but he has got to put some burner laps down now to try to catch back up to Vincent Sora and Jake Nichols, because they were putting down 116 6s and 7s when they came out on those fresh tires, and that's exactly what Seth Knoll has got to try and do.
Got to go for burner lap after burner lap if possible, as John Forbes getting a lap of lead. That's going to be good for the 7 machine as the field continues to rage on. Some of the other close battles that are happening on track, the battle for 6th, that's Danny Cochran, Brian McCann, Jared Talmadge, those 3 drivers. Once was a group of 5, now going to be a little bit smaller as Zach Hall trying to close back in the fight. Same for Gavin Rogers. Other very close battles. 13th position, Ollie Fonseca, Larry Yingling, they were practically side by side going down through the S's. They've also got Shane Terrian, Matt Muir, group of 4. It's 13th back to 16th that are just putting on a show. And for the fans, this certainly is giving action all over the place. Like I said, usually it's maybe a group of 3, a group of 2 that are going back and forth. We're seeing pods of drivers fighting and a little bit of contact. Terry and Yingling into Fonseca, and there's an opportunity for the 67 to go to the inside now, but to push to the right side and get by to make the pass for 13.
Yeah, Shane Terrian was heavy into the brakes, but could not get that car slowed down in time. A slight tap into Larry Yingling pushed him into Ollie Fonseca, which made Fonseca have to slow down a little more so he didn't go super wide. That allowed Yingling to get the pass complete, but now Ollie Fonseca's got to try to hold off Shane Terrian as well, who has been putting down some really fast times.
It's going back and forth. Where do you place yourself for the field? Tarian, where will he set his sights to try to get by the 24 as Seth Knoll talked about he had to put down a burner lap. Well, there it is, a 1 minute 16.581, about 2/10 faster than the last fastest lap that was put down by Jake Nichols. And now it's time to see what the 23 has, because that gap that was once 2.5 seconds, almost 3 seconds to Vincent Sora, it's now dwindled to practically just 1 second, the difference between third and fourth.
Yeah, Seth has put a massive dent into that gap between him and Vincent Sora, but also that gap is reducing from him to Jake Nichols. It's just over 2 seconds to Jake Nichols. He's doing exactly what he needed to do. He needed to put down some fast laps. He's going to have the fresher tires for the end of this race, but again, we're 16, 17 laps left of this race. He has got to still find the pace to catch up for those couple of seconds, ahead of him.
The laps tick away, but is there enough time? And once again, we're coming to a late race. Who had the better strategy call for their pit stop? Last week, it was Seth Knoll that took the advantage of hitting sooner than later, and he found his way into victory lane at Kansas. Jake Nichols wants a little bit of redemption. Felt like he was the dominant car last week. Should have went to victory lane, but was not the case. Now it's everyone on the line, keeping it close. And our top 3 drivers, once John Forbes hits pit road, are all within 2 seconds of one another. It's almost a second and a half. They got a little bit of lap traffic between them. They've got the 50 machine that's in between a leader of John Forbes and Jake Nichols in second. We'll see how Samuel S. Garcia wants to get out of the way, or does he stay where he's at? He'll run the racing line, which is going to hold up the 73, just for a second. And it will give a chance for Sora as well for Knoll to close the gap even more.
Yeah, lap traffic playing a huge part into this situation right now for these leaders. And it's kind of expected. It's not what you run into is lap traffic when you're trying to be the leader and run away from the guys behind you. That's what happened. And it looks like Samuel Garcia a little wide, trying to give those leaders the room out into the sand, but keeps it straight back out on track. And these 3 are back on top of each other as they come around turn 11.
Yeah, for a moment, it looked like it was advantage for Sora and Knoll, but then there was the crossover move by the 50 machine to go from one side of the track to the other side of the track that woed up the 15, ultimately hurt Sora, and now it was within a second, now a little bit more, another lap car ahead that they've got to deal with. That's Joshua Canada that now is going to be ahead of Jake Nichols. Where does the 16 go? Does he run his own line? Or will he just get out of the way? There's only a few more spots he really can just pull off to the side. Otherwise, you're going to force Nichols to just follow you in line, and he'll get out of the way for the 16. And it looks like he'll try to stay ahead of Sora. But will this hurt the 15 once again of another attempt that drivers get out of the way for the 73, but not for the other 2?
And it's really hard to get out of the way there in that situation without cutting the track. So, he had to get back into the racing line to get around that sharp right-hand turn. And right here, it's just so hard unless you've got the momentum to get around someone. It's so hard to just give them that position. So all Ivan Fonseca's doing exactly what he's doing, what he needs to do. Just kind of be predictable. He's going to go low here, try and let them by. He's going to slow down, let them by. So they're going to get around no problem at all.
And Vincent Sora too wide. He has to get out of the way. Instead, Knoll now with the freshest of tires will put the pressure on. The gap over a second and a half with all of the shenanigans of lap cars. Nichols pulls away. Forbes is still yet to pit, and we're 36 laps so far on lap 36. This should be the final lap for that 7 machine, unless he's been massively saving fuel to go just a little bit further than the rest of the competition. But at this point, you're just losing time and ground. For the 73, where do you place yourself with a leader being about 2.5 seconds ahead of you?
Yeah, John Forbes, he's got to be, running on the fumes for the most part. It's impressive. He's gone 36 laps when the, fuel window's about 35. He's definitely been saving a little bit, and there's no way he can save to the end of this race. So his pit window is definitely coming up soon where he's going to have to pit to get fuel at the very least.
They're expecting it to happen either this lap or the next for the 7 machine, which then would give the lead to Jake Nichols as Forbes. There he is. There's the sign. had to go into the pits, was running out of fuel, and the last driver to hit pit road is this 7 machine. Everyone else has completed their pit cycle, can make it to the end. And Nichols now back to the point, back to the lead, back where he's been for most of the evening. And this time, 15 laps to go. Now make it 14. The gap 1.6 seconds between first and second. Third place right there in line. And this is the push to the end. How will this race conclude? Because now it's, for Noel, he's used up so much of his tires to close in this gap, to make the passes that were necessary. This is when things really get to the grueling portions of what tires are left underneath you, and do you overstep any bounds to make it to the end?
Yeah, it's going to be really hard to make that decision. You know, it really depends on how much he did use those tires up. But again, Vincent Sora and Jake Nichols, they both used their tires up quite a bit during their opening laps of that pit stop. So, I mean, it's going to be a close call. See how much tire left Seth Knowles got, unless he's trying to save a little bit here, because we still have 13 laps to go in this race. There's no reason to try to push and kill your tires now when you still have quite a bit of racing to go. So he's probably saving a little bit of resource to maybe make a few, like a 5 or 6 lap push near the end.
As few drivers having issues further on behind, Danny Cochran, trouble for the 2 machine, as he was being challenged by Brian McCann at turn 5. And McCann got underneath the 2 turned down, and contact was made that spun Danny Cochran around and losing over at least 3 positions for himself. As the 2 that was aiming for a top 5 finish, not going to be the case. He will now try to fight to stay inside of the top 10. And see some of the competition right ahead of him. This is that close battle that's happening on track. Right on board the 7 of John Forbes. You got Jared Talmadge, Zach Hall, Brian McCann, and Forbes all trying to figure out where do we finish out this race with 13 laps to go.
Yeah, and I don't know if John Forbes took any tires. His pit box time was only 8.1 seconds, so I think that was just a fuel up and go situation for John Forbes, unless he took left side tires. But he's a lot further ahead than what he probably would have been if he had taken tires. So he's in a good position for himself. It's just a matter of, can his tires last enough to be able to pass these last couple of cars in front of him.
And I can confirm it was fuel only for the 7 with his pit stop. Did not take tires, didn't even take just 2. He decided to just take fuel and see where it places him, and currently in 8th place. You know, for John Forbes, this certainly is trying to be a net gain for himself. He's already up 1 spot from where he qualified. He's close to a couple of more positions. This is not the worst strategy with Brian McCann struggling right now. That's a spot. That's some contact in the 8. The 7. Better watch out as we head down to the hard braking zone. A little bit of contact, but they were so close to one another. That's a hard place to even make a pass. Zach Hall tries to make a choice to get by Jared Talmadge, but just can't.
Yeah, Zach Hall looked to the outside, tried to make that move on the outside of Talmadge, but wasn't able to get the run through the middle of the turn or the run off. So John Forbes, he did make that move. I mean, Brian McCann got off track heavy off into the grass and the sand there, so he lost a lot of speed. And Forbes just kind of came across his nose ever so slightly. They had small contact, but still able to keep it straight. No harm, no foul. But Brian McCann is looking to try to get back around John Forbes as he is trying to close that gap and make a move.
3 major battles going out on track. The battle for the lead, Seth Knoll within a half a second now. The battle for 5th, it's Jared Talmadge and Zach Hall, with John Forbes trying to close in. And then that battle for Forbes for 7th, he's got Brian McCann right behind him. Those are our 3 closest battles for 1st, for 5th, and for 7th. These drivers putting it all on the line with 11 laps to go. It's Jake Nichols at the moment, but the difference just continues to be cut by a 10th here, a 10th there, and at this rate, Seth Knoll will be right on that back bumper in the next 3 to 4 laps. Then it's all about convincing Sora closing the gap, because that last time by, Sora was the fastest of our top 3.
Yeah, Sora definitely has some resource left in those tires. He's got some life left. He's putting the laps down. He's trying to get back up to Seth Knoll and challenge him, but Seth still trying everything he can to get back up to Jake Nichols and challenge him. He wants that lead back. He wants to beat Jake Nichols, who has been a very dominant driver since he has returned back into the WSSR.
Jake Nichols, the rookie, has done everything right. Seth Knoll, doing all these part-times the last couple of seasons, has been the driver that when he shows up, he is competing for the win. And Vincent Sora, he has always been there since season 4 of the WSSR Cup Series. He's won 2 championships back in season 4, season 5. Thought he was going to get his 3rd in a row, but wasn't the case. And since then has been just searching to find consistency to be the driver to beat. And with this changeup of the cars, if Nichols and Knowles wasn't here, Sora could have been the odds-on favorite to go for his 3rd championship and tie Larry Yingling in the history books of the most championships earned in this series. But with Nichols emerging, with Knoll here, Richard, sometimes it's nice to have competition. Sometimes you like a little bit of a cakewalk to a championship. This 15, if he somehow can take this win here tonight, going for that championship, this would be one of the most thrilling and most rewarding championships to take with the competition around him.
Yeah, when you're so used to being up front all the time, and you have guys that, their skill level just surpasses you by so much. John Forbes has done a great job here to really adapt and learn a lot quicker than we've seen, and just able to kind of maintain pace with these guys. So this is a challenge for John Forbes, but this is exactly what he needs, especially with some plans he has next year. But Danny Cochran and the number 10 machine of Jan Van Leer, they get into each other on the other side of the track. But yeah, John Forbes definitely looking for a very, very tough season ahead of him.
It's now going to be seeing Seth Knoll, Vincent Sora. Where do you place yourself? Jake Nichols able to find that mirror. And with 9 laps to go, this is the final countdown of these drivers and where you're placed. John Forbes, Ryan McCann, they continue to go back and forth between one another, but looks like for McCann, he might have the advantage for himself. Other battles that are starting to emerge, Larry Yingling as well as Cedric Hunter and Ryan Kelly are starting to get a little bit closer. There's still quite a big gap between those 3 drivers, as well as Ollie Fonseca and Shane Terrian. They're within a second as Matt Meir gets out of the way. And now, within a second and a half, our top 3 just linger with lap cars. Who will be the next in front of them? Or is it just clean sailing to the end? Because the next grouping is a battle that's starting to slowly get closer and closer. That's Shane Terry and Ollie Fonseca. It's about 5.5 seconds ahead of Jake Nichols currently.
Yeah, battle ahead of him, just ahead. He's got to worry about. We're worried about that. Might slow him down, but right now he's getting a little bit more gap between him and Seth Knoll. That gap is extended to just about a second out of some of these turns versus the 7/10 that we saw earlier. So Seth Knoll is doing everything he can to try and catch Jake Nichols, but Jake has still got some life left in those tires to put some laps down.
And how much has this 73 really been pushing? As that last lap, it was a 1 minute 17.7 second lap time. About 2 cents faster than Knoll, a little bit slower than Vincent Sora by 1/100th of a second. So they're all top 3, very close. You can also throw in that of 4th place runner of Thomas Green. Sadly, Green is about 15 seconds away from our leader, but based off of his lap times, Thomas Green really has been rapid here this evening. Just because of the way that that first stint went down, he just lost too much ground in 31. More so just racing a ghost ahead of him and behind as he runs in 4th position. But ahead, this battle for the lead, it just continues to go back and forth. But the advantage, I feel like, is in Nichols' hands on the way that he's protecting his tires compared to Knoll, who really put everything out there, just run down and catch up to this group to be in this position.
Yeah, he's done everything he could to try to catch these guys, and he's just gotta hope that he's got some life left in those tires of his. But these times are pretty even between these 3 drivers. Seth is just, I don't know, like I said, don't know if he's trying to save just a little bit, but he's under 10 laps to go. We got 7 laps to go in this race, so he's running out of time to try and make a last-minute push to catch Jake Nichols.
Maybe it's not always, as Lucky Ducks in the history books has not really been a team-oriented. It's more of just raw speed, good luck, who can ever get the win. But if they are doing a little bit of teamwork right now, Seth Knoll has been the slowest of this top trio, and he has been slowing down Vincent Sora. Sora has been the fastest of our top 3, but He hasn't been able to find an opening to try to even attempt a pass on the 23. Knoll has kind of just been a good buffer for Nichols, who just continues to hit his marks and looks super smooth so far here this evening as drivers continue to race back and forth. One of the closest battles on track now going to be for 6th place is Zach Hall. Brian McCann has caught up to the 32 machine.
Brian McCann catching up to Zach Hall. He is trying to make a move to get another position for himself. I mean, he's not quite in an attacking position, but he's very, very close, waiting for that moment, trying to get the momentum to catch Zach Hall, using that drafted best that he possibly can. But he's got a little bit less speed here in the S's, it looks like, and this is going to be the moment where he's got to try to get that momentum back up, that attacking move going into turn 11 in that hairpin turn. A lot of passes are made there, and he's just a little bit too far back to make a move. It depends on how aggressive he wants to be.
My bad for telling us to move away from the battle for second, because that pass you were talking about, turn 11, almost a chance there for the machine to go for the pass. Vincent Sora was able to find a way to sneak his way through with Seth Knoll, and now is in 2nd place. No longer will he have those chains holding back the 15. The only thing he's got to worry about is the fact that he's got competition now right on that rear end. Vincent Sora, this is your chance. You got the breathing room. Now it's your chance to try to put down some burners to catch up to Nichols, who's got 6, about to be 5 laps to go when they cross the line. What's left for the 15, as they've got a lap car also expected to be in front of them? That's going to be Shane Tarian, as well as Ali Fonseca, and another pairing of drivers that could be there at the end of this race. So for Sora, he's got to catch up to the leader, or hope that lap traffic woes up to 73 as they go into turn number 11 and get ready for 5 to go.
Yeah, it was impressive to see Sora get around Seth Knoll. I guess Seth Knoll has used up his stuff a little bit more than we were expecting, but Vincent Sora still has a 1.5 seconds to catch Jake Nichols. A big gap between those two, so he's got to hope that those lap traffic kind of slowed down Jake Nichols a little bit. But, I mean, if we've been seeing, I mean, it's a battle in front of Jake Nichols, so these two might not give the space that we've been seeing a lot of the lap traffic do. So this could give Vincent Sora that extra space to catch him with that battle going in front of Jake.
Yeah, all the times that they've passed lap traffic, it's been kind of a lone driver that's trying to find a way to not lose ground of the competition ahead of them, and also get out of the way as smoothly as they could. This is going to be the first battle of 2 drivers for position. Tarian, Fonseca, and for Shane Tarian, he's been running down this 24 all throughout this second half of the race. Finally has caught to the rear bumper. The problem, Jake Nichols just caught up to them. So this is that tough decision. Do you go and get out of the way? Do you follow in suit? As Vincent Sora, on the other hand, he's just not able to really feel comfortable at this moment. He's just not able to hit his marks as smoothly as he was when he was following Knoll in line. The 15, what does he have as Terry and Fonseca make slight contact through turn 11, woeing up to 73. He now is trying to make a move to the inside. They'll be side by side. No, Tarian holding back Nichols for a second there.
And I know Nichols has got to be frustrated with this. He knows that he's faster than these guys, but at the same time, they have every right to fight him right now because they're in a battle of themselves as well. Shane Tarian's trying to get around Ali Fonseca and not lose the time like he's doing now because of Jake Nichols challenging this. But Ali Fonseca has now got Jake Nichols in his mirror. We'll have to see if Ali gives him the space or tries to stay in front of him and keep him between him and Shane Tarian.
Well, Tarian gets out of the way for Sora as well for Knoll. So he tried his best. Now Fonseca will get out of the way for the 73. We'll get back in line in front of Sora and Ali Fonseca. The back and forth woeing up. And Sora said, oh, I thought I had the good graces. But instead, losing time and ground, the 24 might have just helped our leader of Nichols hold on for the lead, at least for this moment.
Yeah, it might have helped him out just a little bit. Ali Fonseca, I mean, he gave the room for the leader, but then he had to make that turn also, just cutting down in front of Vincent Sora, losing a little bit of time. But let's see if Ali Fonseca gives it to Sora here. He will stay a little high, going to kind of pinch him down low there against the wall, but still let him have the spot. Now Vincent Sora, again, clean air to catch up to Jake Nichols. We'll see if he's got the pace to catch back up to him, but Jake Nichols is almost on a free roam here to win this race.
Free roam, and Ali Fonseca just handed over that position to first. But once again, Vincent Sora probably would have loved to see the lap cars if you're going to be that generous to the leader, be just as generous to second and third place. And the fact that they're trying to run down the leader, not the case. All that time that they would have caught up, throw it away. We're right back to square one. About a second behind still is Sora to Nichols with 3.5, making now 2.5 laps to go. Jay Nichols, all he has to do, hit your marks. You don't even have to be faster than Sora. Just make sure you're a couple of tenths slower than him, and you'll still have the space to hold back this 15.
Yeah, I mean, Jake Nichols, he's definitely want to still trying to extend that gap ever so slightly. He wants to dominate this race completely, and he has, but he wants to extend that gap even more. But by doing that, it can put him into a place for even more mistakes. The faster you go, the more mistake you could potentially, the more chance of a mistake you can make. But he's been basically perfect this entire race so far. So he's just going to keep up his pace and try to keep in front of Vincent Sora as far as he can.
Hit your marks, continue to try to pull away. And he does just that across the line. A 1 minute 17.3 second lap time. About 2 tenths faster than Vincent Sora. 3 to 4 tenths faster than Seth Knoll. Jake Nichols, 2 laps to go. And now is your time to show your true pace. What do you have underneath this 73 to just solidify yourself that there was no question, an absolute, the 73 was the best of the day. Vincent Sora showed some moments and glimpses of being the fastest at times. Seth Knoll put down the fastest lap of the day. But the 73 just has a lap and a half to go to take the victory here tonight. This 73 looking good as he heads down through the S's.
The only thing that's going to stop the 73 machine now is a mistake done by himself. So he's got to be smooth and hit his marks, because Vincent Sora still in a fantastic striking position. He's now down to 1 second. He was up to 1.6 seconds, but that gap is cut down. It's slightly increasing. And just Jake Nichols seems to have a way better S's than everybody else as they come down to turn 11, but that gap still hefty gap between him and Vincent Sora. Sora's doing everything he can to try to catch him, and he's hoping that Nichols makes a mistake.
As we come out of turn number 12, this is the end of race number 5 as the white flag is out of the air of your Sim Precision Prince white flag. 1 to go here this evening. And Nichols taking it easy that last go around off the exit of turn number 5, not trying to wheel spin, and a little bit of cautiousness, giving up a little bit of time to Vincent Sora. But this 73, I mean, I thought maybe there was a chance for the rest of the field to close the gap, but Nichols just looks to be on a different level here this season. It's got to have to be a major mistake on why Nichols does not find himself being the points leader moving on, because he just looks too dominant at every track we go to.
Yeah, he's just dominated every track so far. He's been up there basically winning every single race. The closest competition he's had is Seth Knoll, but Vincent Sora is showing that he has got a very good prowess here on road courses, and he is challenged. He is in second place, besting Seth Knoll tonight.
Oh, as we are coming to the end of this race, it is some shocking news. Incident points have struck 2 drivers. Samuel S. Garcia, Danny Cochran, both have a drive-through penalty as we're coming to the white flag. That could hurt dramatically for the 2 as well for the 50. But winning once again, his 3rd of the season, Sonoma Road Courses. And what can he do? Nichols wins here once again in the WSSR Cup Series.
Fantastic performance and a phenomenal show from Jake Nichols, again showing why he is a very dominant driver here in the WSSR Cup Series. And again, another win under his belt. Some great work by himself. And, you know, honestly, it was a fantastic race overall. We had battles throughout the entire field as everybody was fighting every driver they were around for every position they could get.
A little bit of contact between Vincent Sora and Seth Knoll as they had their bickers all throughout the great battle for second place. Other great battles that were happening in the battle for 6th, 7th. For Zach Hall, Brian McCann, they had their back and forth. Ultimately, it will be Jake Nichols, Vincent Sora, Seth Knoll that we will talk to at the end for our post-race show. Thomas Green, Jared Talmadge, Zach Hall, Brian McCann, John Forbes, they had all their moments. Danny Cochran as well, Samuel S. Garcia. We'll have to wait and see where they get placed after, I don't know if they're able to serve those black flag penalties, so they might be pushed to the end of whatever lap they're on in position, which could push Danny Cochran all the way down to around 13th place. We'll see where Garcia gets put for himself as well. But for us, we're going to step away. When we come back, it's the post-race show. We'll talk to the 73, your winner here of Jake Nichols, Vince Sora, Seth Knoll, and get their thoughts on tonight's race. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the post-race show of race number 5 of season 12 at Sonoma Raceway. We head to Victory Lane to talk to the driver who gets it done for the 3rd time this season. Could have been 4 in a row if we got it done last week, but he's still on his winning ways. Also grabbing his 2nd pole of the season. We got the 73 of Jake Nichols with us. Jake, I mean, that was a fun battle to watch between the top 3 of yourself, Sora, and Knoll, but you come away with the victory at the end of the day. How are you feeling with the great battle here this evening?
Well, relieved. A lot of mirror driving tonight. Just we're all kind of the same pace. There wasn't really much fall off. Really, we would fall off a few tenths, and then you just cool the tires down, and you can get right back close to where you were running at the start. So there's just like a balance there. I could tell every time Seth was kind of cool down the tires a little bit, so I'd try to back off with him and try to match him so I could at least just have something if he did get close. But we were all pretty close to the same speed. I could try to match the pace the whole race and just run what I could, not overdrive myself, and try to get through traffic clean. Some of them were, I thought I was racing for positions. It was a little sketchy because they were racing pretty hard, but it's a race, so it's part of it. I'm glad we came out on top, and I'm glad I'm just getting done with this Polish victory lap here. I forgot we're at a road course, so I went around and we're just driving the whole time.
Yeah, a phenomenal performance again from you, Seth. I'm sorry, Jake Nichols, being able to just come out and show your skill here in the Cup Series. Is there any track on the schedule that you might be not necessarily worried, but with a bigger potential of not winning?
I don't know. Talladega's a thing, and we didn't do great there last time, but I'm intrigued to see how something like Mexico City goes. I don't even actually have the track yet, but I've ran it on F1 games, and I kind of like it, so I'm hoping maybe that'll translate a little bit, at least knowing where the turns are, and obviously braking zones will be completely different, but at least knowing where I'm going will really help. But outside of that, I don't know. I'm really looking forward to Darlington next week. That's one of my best tracks, honestly. I'm very excited to get there, especially on a hot streak like I am, and bring this momentum.
Well, we know that you're going to be quick, but we also know that this week there were some changes to the Gen 4 car. You've been running a lot in other leagues as well here on Wednesday nights. How did you feel like the update influenced tonight's race in any way? And are you liking the changes that they made, at least to the road course side of things, that you could tell from this week?
I honestly didn't even know there was much of a difference, so I can't even tell you anything on that. I just kind of showed up. I hadn't ran really. It probably helps that I haven't really ran any laps in this car on a road course. The other league that I ran in that sometimes ran this car would run Next Gen and the 87 car also, and we didn't run a road course in this car all year, so I was kind of coming in blind on that, so maybe that helped. Maybe I didn't have anything to compare to. Obviously, Sonoma changed recently. It looks like a repave out here. It just looks fresh, and obviously everything's updated and looking nice, and it felt pretty good out there. Honestly, it fit my style pretty good, so that was pretty nice.
It certainly does look nice with the new repave. Jake, congratulations on this win. And before we let you go, the floor is now yours for any other shout out.
Well, thanks to everyone at Lucky Ducks Motorsports. I'm glad I can win this one. I threw last week away with, pitting later than Seth, but this week I thought I threw it away pitting first. So thankfully we didn't, and we kept the pace up and kept going and brought it out on top. But thanks to obviously everyone there at JWR Race Cars. We got No Kid Hungry and Stand Up to Cancer on the car, and a lot of great partners and charities on board with Tiltify and AmeriCares as well, and just everybody involved. It's great coming out here. Caudal Chassis as well. We have so many great logos on board, and I'm glad we could at least win in this Christmas looking car. I was a little disappointed we couldn't do it last week, but we made up for it this week.
You certainly did. That'll be your winner here from Sonoma. Congratulations, Jake, on this win. Enjoy it, and good luck at trying to go for another back-to-back at Darlington next week.
Thank you.
As that will be our victor here in the 73 machine. We had to second place to talk to Vincent Sora, who attempted to go for the win, but ultimately had to fight for second. Vinny, it's Sam and Richard up at the booth. A grueler, it looked like, here tonight. Now, you didn't qualify where you wanted. You had to fight just from the immediate start of this race. But how are you feeling coming away with second here tonight?
Yeah, I feel really good. I think that's going to be the story of my season, and it pretty much already has been. But, a really fun night, honestly. It's been a long, long time since I've had this much fun on a road course, especially over here in WSSR. The next gen was just really not that fun to race on the road courses. There was really no fall off, and everyone was just running like quality laps the whole time. But tonight was a good old-fashioned one. I love Sonoma, man. It's probably my favorite road course of all time. But yeah, I was just I don't know if it came down to just not having the clean air or what, but it seemed like I was missing a little bit that Jake had there. Qualifying definitely sucked. I felt like when I crossed the line that I had a really good lap, and I guess I underdrove it because it was only good enough for like P5 or P6, and then I just had to kind of lock in and follow for the rest of the race because I knew I couldn't push my tires any more than I already was because I was just going to lose time. And I think I executed pretty well. I was like 2 or 3 seconds back at one point early on, and I drove it down. It's like a 1.5 and just kind of stayed there with Jake. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. This car, it's nice to have to manage the brakes and modulate them down into a corner to not wheel hop, and the downshifts, and to try to save the rears. It's kind of what I was given when I started here on iRacing way too long ago. It is now, but yeah, good old-fashioned road course race, and I hope we have more to come.
Yeah, Vinny, a phenomenal performance from you tonight, able to take second place away from Seth Knoll. I mean, you really showed your prowess here on road course, the road course racing. Something we usually see Gavin kind of dominate for the most part, but you seem to have been able to keep up with the pace of Jake and Seth really well. Are you just really good at learning from drivers that are around you that are typically better?
I don't know. I mean, I've always been a pretty good road course guy. I just didn't really show it that much in the next gen and the Gavin era. The next gen was kind of more of just like whoever could get the most lap time out of it, and I wasn't very good at that. Those things were so stiff, and Gavin definitely had the ability to get better lap time, and with little to no fall off, it was kind of just that and follow the leader. But I'm just really good at saving my rears on road courses. I think that's what it comes down to. Way back in the day, before the Freaky Fast era of me, back in like 2020, 2021, I was in a Cup League and practiced so much to try to beat Tom Sinchek at Sonoma, and I just learned so much in that time span, and I think I've just carried it through the rest of my sim racing career. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's just a lot of experience and the ability to adapt as the race goes on and not make any mistakes.
Thinking back to those old times, always fun to check out. Vinny, we've got ourselves Darlington before the holiday break. What are you hoping to going into Darlington, and also with the break that's about to be ahead of us, getting ready for the final push for the rest of this regular season?
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited. Darlington has been a really, really fun track for me. It's been a successful track for me as well. I just need to execute perfectly. I know that that's probably going to be a track that suits Seth and Jake really well, so I'm going to have to be perfect, which is kind of the story of the whole season. If I'm going to beat either of them, I have to be perfect. So Milwaukee is another track that I've had a lot of success at in other leagues. So yeah, I've got to pick it up a step or two and execute a little bit better. I've been knocking on the door closer and closer each week. So I think my time will come at some point in this season, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it and ready to see what I can do.
Can't wait to see it. Congratulations, Vinny, on second place here tonight. And before we let you go, the floor is now yours for any other shout-outs.
Yeah, shout out to Jake for the win. I'll say sorry to Seth. When I dove him down into 11 there, I really didn't mean to, and he saw it coming and gave way, and I know he showed his displeasure with me after the race. So sorry about that, but shout out to my Cat 5 teammates, you guys for broadcasting, and then everybody over here who races.
Well, that'll be the 15 machine of Vincent Sora coming away second here tonight. Congratulations on a great run, Vinny, and good luck next week at Darlington.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
You too. As we move from second place, we go down to third. I go talk to Seth Knoll. And Seth, I mean, you took the strategy and the gamble, go long, and you had the tires. It was looking like a great charge for yourself, but ultimately come up third at the end. How are you feeling, though, after your performance here tonight with the great duel that we got to see between yourself and the top two?
I mean, I feel okay. I always love racing this track, so it's good to try and brawl, but the dirty air is really rough, even on the road courses. I don't know how much exactly it affected Battle, but it was hard to get past like 6/10 on Jake, whether that was just him managing pace or the air, but yeah, we tried the strat and tried to see if we could gain the rear drive, and maybe they get in traffic or something, and we can use the overcut to get the rear drive on them and make the pass, but not quite enough. Good night though. Get ready. We won't be here, I think, for the next 2 weeks or the next 2 races, so we'll be back in a couple weeks at Michigan.
Well, Seth, I mean, third place, still not a terrible finishing position for yourself. Different strategy call from the other two. Didn't pan out the way you were hoping it looks like. So, but with the next two races, you're going to be gone and returning on Michigan. I mean, it's pretty much the Jake and Seth show with Vinny showing up every now and then. Is there any race that you think is going to be extremely close between you two, or are you going? What track are you going to be able to? You think best Jake very easily?
I don't know about any track that I'm going to easily best Jake. We're always really close together. But I mean, Michigan will be a good brawl. Rockingham will probably be pretty fun. Auto Club later in the year, that'll be pretty fun. So we got some good tracks that we're going to be able to brawl at and put on a show for you guys, and maybe we can scrape another couple wins out of it.
We're excited to see those brawls in action go down. Seth, I asked a similar question to Jake. How do you feel like this update that came out, how do you feel like that's going to influence this car? Or did you feel any difference running with the new update that came out?
So the biggest thing with this car in this update was fixing the force feedback, so it's just all feeling in the wheel with not the abrasive force feedback that we used to have. I guess we'll really find out with the dynamic track how that really works in a couple weeks. Like Darlington, we probably won't see it. Milwaukee, you guys might see some, maybe. But when we get to Michigan, we're really going to see like how big that change is, and hopefully it widens the track out and we can really put on a good show.
We hope for that as well. Well, Seth, congratulations for third once again. And before we let you go, the floor is now yours for any other shout-outs.
I appreciate Lucky Duck letting me chill on their channel. Shout out to all the people that Jake named earlier. And yeah, thank you guys for putting on a good show, and we'll see you guys in 3-4 weeks.
I cannot wait for it. That's going to be the 23 machine of Seth Knoll. Congratulations on third. Enjoy it, and enjoy your break until we see you back out there in the new year.
I appreciate you, boys. Happy holidays.
You too, as that will finish out our interviews here tonight. That was the 23 of Seth Knoll. Coming away third, we also got to see Jake Nichols and Vincent Sora. And here's going to be your unofficial results after those top three. Fourth goes to Thomas Green. Jared Talmadge coming away fifth. Sixth was Zach Hall. Seventh goes to Brian McCann. And then a little bit of a switch up because of Danny Cochran getting penalized with having too many incident points and not able to service drive-through. The 2 falls all the way down to 13th, which enables John Force to move up to 8th. 9th goes to Gavin Rogers, and 10th goes to the 3 of Ryan Kelly. That's the one thing. You had to keep your car on track, and that wasn't the case for some drivers. Danny, those earlier spins caught up to him.
Yeah, you know, that, like I was saying earlier, that penalty for 15x, you know, the 15 incident points caught up to him, and, you know, he paid the price. He had a potential for a top 10 finish. Falls back just outside in the 13th position for himself with Ali Fonseca behind him. Shane Tarrant, our controller driver, 15th. Not a bad race for him as well. But, you know, a few other drivers like Douglas Newbigging, usually we see him really fast, really up front, but not his night tonight in the Gen 4 at Sonoma, back there in the 21st position for himself.
Certainly was not his night, but we'll see how things evolve for drivers, as next week going to be the last race of 2025. Crazy to say that. And then we'll have the holiday break before we come back January 7th for WSSR coverage. Before that, January 7th race, though, we will also have our charity race. January 3rd is going to be the 6 Hours of Daytona race. Race Against Diabetes, where we'll be partnering up with Breakthrough T1Z, and having our 5th annual charity race, partnering up with those guys. 6 Hours of Daytona Endurance Racing. It's going to be a lot more of mess with the broadcast booth, mess with the racers. We cannot wait for this charity race, and more details will be out. We'll also be having a highlight video of our last charity race coming up tomorrow. If you want to check out some of the highlights of this previous charity race to get you hyped up for the upcoming race, it's less than a month away. Check it out tomorrow morning. But for us here tonight, I mean, Richard, Darlington next week certainly should be a good one, but what are some of your final thoughts for tonight here at Sonoma?
I think everyone did a fantastic job. You know, throughout the field, there was great battles, some great racing. I mean, we had small groups of 4 and 5 cars each, all fighting for position. Everybody did a great job in this car. We only saw 2 black flags. Just a handful of DNFs, too much damage, and not being able to finish a race. But it's exciting to watch how they performed here on the first road course of the season. And I can't wait to see what they do at Mexico City next.
Cannot wait to see how next week goes down. It's going to be certainly a fun one to see. But for us here this evening, thank you so much for joining with us on your Wednesday night for the WSSR Cup Series presented by Elwood Designs. If you want to have some of your winning moments captured, remember to go to also Trophy Smack, as we forgot to give them a shout out. But so much thank you to Trophy Smack for being one of the major sponsors here for the WSSR Cup Series. Go check out trophysmack.com and all the trophies, pre-made custom ones that you can get. And remember, when purchasing, to use the promo code WSSR SMACK to get 10% off on your wall smack. But for us here this evening, for myself, Sam Dyer, for Richard Wolsifer, and our producer in the background, Robert Moyer Jr., thank you so much for hanging out with us. It was a pleasure to give you the call. The great duel of Jake Nichols, Vincent Sora, and Seth Knoll ultimately goes to the driver who grabs his 3rd win out of 5 races. Jake Nichols, who can stop him? We'll see if it's next week, if anyone can stand tall, or will it be the 73 winning on? We'll have to wait and see next week. Darlington should be a fun one. Don't want to miss out. Congratulations to Nichols win here tonight, and we'll see you next week for our next Freaky Fast broadcast.